Get an opening statement from Coach, and then we'll get some questions. Just raise your hand, keep them up, and we'll go ahead and start with Coach.
Good afternoon, everybody. Excited to be back home after 2 really tough games in Brooklyn, but overall proud of our guys. Our first game against BYU, there were a lot of highs and lows of that game, but the men persevered and they played some pretty good basketball overall. Still got to do a better job of rebounding, which has been our Achilles heel all year. And then we all know the story against Minnesota of how that game started. We started off slow on our heels, didn't take great care of the basketball. And we started to get it going a little bit in the second half and, you know, cut the lead to 7 and had a little bit of a scuffle there on the court. And unfortunately, we didn't do a good enough job of keeping our players off the court, and they came off the court and got ejected. And you know, we finished the game with 3 players, but those 3 guys, Galen Smith, Riley Norris, and Colin Sexton, they all played hard and they played with a lot of passion. So I'm proud of them from that standpoint. I'm also proud of the way the team greeted them or received them after the game was over. They were flying down the hall to tell those guys how proud they were to be their teammates and really proud of their effort. So that was a pretty cool thing to see. From an injury standpoint, Braxton is still out. He's increased his workload throughout his rehab. Clark's done an amazing job with him and Lou. We hope to have him back for non-contact parts of practice maybe next week. And then we'll see how he continues to progress. But he's doing well. My wife told me don't say really well. So you can tell her I said he's doing extremely well, Miss Cassandra, since she likes to critique my interviews. John Petty, he didn't practice on yesterday. We'll see how he feels for practice on today. But he's probably going to be a game time decision on tomorrow night.
Thank you, Coach. We'll start with Chandler here on the right.
I got 2 questions, Avery. First, did you, before the season or when you guys got together, did you ever, talk to your team about if a scuffle ever happens, everybody has to stay on the bench? Did you go over that with your guys? And then what do you think of that rule that if you leave the bench, you're automatically ejected?
Well, a lot of times during practice, we practice ball handling drills, passing drills, defensive drills, shell drills, fast break situations. Yesterday was the first time we reenacted a real fight, okay? So Dante got into a fight with Landon, and we were all on the bench, and we went through a training session of whose responsibility it is to go out and try to help break up the fight, and whose responsibility it is to keep the rest of the team on the bench. So we actually practiced that on yesterday.
Who won the fight?
Dante Hall, thank you.
And what do you think of the rule, though? That
I think it's something that they're going to address after the season. I think it's come up several times now, and unfortunately we were involved in the last one. But more than anything, it's a great learning lesson for us, and not just that situation. We had a lot of teachable moments. It's not an excuse. I'm not going to throw this out there every time or when we're not successful, but we do have a lot of young guys, and there are a lot of situations that we need to all learn from, and we have to do a better job, because the #1 responsibility, you're going to hear me saying this all year, it's the head coach and our staff. It's our responsibility. They're kids. So we have to be responsible for making sure they don't run on the court. We have to help educate them on how to handle adversity throughout the course of the game, on and off the court. If a situation occurs off the court, how to best handle those situations. Because sometimes now we're a target, and we have to know how to respond in those situations.
Back row on the right, Cecil.
I'm sure you don't need to be reminded of this, but Louisiana Tech undefeated coming in here. Again, seems like the schedule just sort of gives you tough game after tough game.
Yeah, and that's something that basically we initiate. we were in control of what this schedule looked like this year. And every team that we played is for a reason. You know, Lipscomb, I think they had a big win against Belmont, right? So Lipscomb is going to be a pretty good team. UT Arlington, we think, barring injury, they're going to win their division or their conference. We think Louisiana Tech is going to be one of the top 1, 2, or 3 teams in their conference. And that's the way it's playing out. They've won some close games, and it's because, you know, there are 4 guys that handle the ball primarily are all high-level Division I players. And now they're getting contributions from some of their guys like White inside, who's a 7-1 center. So we got to do a good job of defending the ball. The way we've rebounded, we're not going to be successful moving forward. So that's a big point of emphasis for us. We got to have better ball movement on offense, especially when we get trapped. So there are a lot of areas in cleanup work that took place on yesterday, and I thought our guys were locked in and focused, and I think we got a little bit better yesterday.
Right side, Alex.
Avery, Colin kind of mentioned, you know, some of the plays you were, when there was a 3-on-5 situation, I guess what was your approach at that point? And you said there were several plays that you were trying to draw up that they were like, Coach, I don't know if we can do this with 3 players. And you know, a couple of them worked, and they're like, okay, you know what you're talking about.
Well, he rarely looks at me crazy. Okay, he's one of the kids that's always yes sir, no sir, even if he disagrees. You know, he's one of the kids, and like a lot of our guys, they're always locked in and very respectful. That was probably the first time he looked at me weird since we've been knowing each other. But then when we ran a little bit of a play and got Galen the screen for him to make a 3, then he looked at me like, wow, that's pretty cool, Coach. But I think the main message was, this is some serious adversity. We work a lot of disadvantage drills in practice where we'll have 3 defenders against 4 or 5 offensive players. All right, that's a major part of our practice, because for us to be a championship caliber team, those 3 players on defense have to function like they're 5. So we talk a lot about that. But the other part of it was, when you're in a disadvantage and there's 3 offensive players against 5 defensive players, that's a time to slow it down, wait for your 2 trailers, because it's a disadvantage. I had to pretty much contradict myself. And when there was 3 against 5, hey, go as fast as you can go, shoot the wide open 3 if you're open. If you get trapped, don't worry about passing the ball, split the trap, get out of it. So I had to kind of contradict myself when we were on offense, but we were preaching the same message when we were on defense. But we work on those drills every day, and I was proud of the way we competed defensively. We just need to compete that way when we have 5 guys on the floor.
So just to be clear, that you do a 3-on-5 situation at practice every day?
Every day.
When you got defense, okay.
Yeah, because you got to be able to work yourself out of those situations.
Back left, Michael.
You guys did lose the game, but what's the atmosphere like after the game? You guys outscored them when you were down 3 to 5 players. Was it a happy locker room after the game? What was that scene like?
We were still disappointed. There's no moral victories. I think more than anything, the guys were disappointed at our start of the game. You know, when we were down and we were on our heels, and we just weren't as confident and sure about what we were doing. And it took that situation to prove that playing hard, playing with passion, persevering through mistakes, those things that's what winning basketball is all about. But there was no cause for celebration. I think there was a dejected feeling that we got to within 3 points, and maybe we could have created some history and made history had we tied the game up, because all of the momentum was swinging our way, and had we been able to, you know, get the game tied up, you never know what could have happened.
Go right side, Tony.
Yeah, we've seen Colin pick up a couple of technicals in recent games. Is it hard to balance? He brings a lot of energy on the court. Is it hard to balance that and get that, but then also keep him in check? And what do you do to do that?
We had a little bit of a demonstration about that on yesterday. I won't give you the specifics, but that's, you know, when you're a high-level guy that's getting a lot of attention nationally, guys are going to want to come at you and make a name for themselves, and even our team now. So we got to keep our composure, keep the main thing the main thing. And the main thing is every possession, we want to be efficient on offense, and we want to get stops on defense so that we can run and have an opportunity to get quality shots. That's the main thing. And Alabama finishing with one more point than our opponent. And if that's not the main thing, then that means you're distracted. So all of our guys have to make sure that they keep their composure, maintain a high level of confidence, but make sure that it's all about Alabama and doing whatever it takes to help Alabama be successful. So it's a learning lesson for him, but it's not just him, it's our entire team.
And then a different question. When Penny went down, you guys said the momentum was going your way. How much of an additional blow was it to not only deal with an injury and see one of the players injured, but then, you know, how did you address the players going down from 4 to 3?
The main thing was, you know, John had started to pick it up a lot in the second half on both ends of the floor. Unfortunately, you know, guy kind of ran under him and, you know, just didn't get the call in that situation. But I was more concerned about him and the short term and long term of that injury, because it just didn't look good. And when we looked at it after the game, it really looked bad. So fortunately, we think, you know, he's going to be okay, and there's not going to be any serious long-term effects to his game or him physically. But I just think more than anything, we weren't going to quit. And that was a major part of our conversation. We're not going to leave the court with 10 minutes to go and go back to the locker room and fly home and get home 45 minutes early. We're going to play. We're going to play it out, even if we go down to 2 guys. Crazy things happen. So we just competed, and I'm glad that our guys had no surrender in their attitude.
Got 3 more questions, starting back there in Houston.
Coach, not just the Minnesota game, but really looking overall all season, are slow starts still a concern for you? You didn't play super well out of the block against BYU or Minnesota.
Yes, slow starts are a concern. It's taken us 5 to 7 to 10 minutes to really get our feet set defensively and to get solid where all 5 guys are functioning on what I talked to them about yesterday, Cecil, the same channel, okay? And I'm not gonna mention any cable networks or anything like that because I don't want to get in trouble. But if I'm watching a game on channel 359 or Dejan's watching a game on 359 and Dante wants to watch the same game and he's on 427, he's on the wrong channel, and we just got to get on the same channel every possession. And if we do that, we get all 5 guys functioning the way they need to function, then we can have more success to start games. But we're not all on the same channel to start games, and that's a problem.
Left side, Caleb.
A couple of questions. First off, Dejan didn't start the game against Minnesota, but he came in, I think it was 16 seconds in. Was that the plan going in? Was there a reason he didn't start?
Coach's decision.
Secondly, Richard Pitino said today that he didn't want to embarrass Alabama, and they held off. They wanted to milk the clock. Is that how you felt it happened, or did you feel like your guys fought hard enough to get back into that game?
Well, I thought they had some good looks at some wide open shots that just didn't go in, and I think they were shooting them to try to make them. But obviously, they slowed the ball down a little bit more than they normally would. I just think more than anything, I'm proud of our guys. I'm proud of the way they finished that game with a lot of integrity, and they fought hard. We need that same type of fight to start against Louisiana Tech, who's an undefeated team coming in the Coleman Coliseum at 7 o'clock tomorrow.
Last question, Alex.
And what we've talked about, we've seen Colin kind of take things over at certain points, take the game into his hands a little bit. When you're in that situation, how free do you feel like you can just hand things over to Colin and he'll do the right things, make the right plays, drive the whole, like, you know, 3-on-1 situations where he showed no fear. So I guess the confidence in them in those situations and moving forward.
Well, you gotta have confidence in any of our kids that have a certain type of ability. You know, Dejon Ingram, when he's posting up and sometime, you know, two guys are on him, we have confidence that he can make the right reads. Or, you know, all of our guys, we have confidence in all of our wing players being able to knock down three-point shots. So whether it's Colin in the open court, Dejon in the open court, AJ in the open court, you know, Braxton when he comes back in the open court, we feel we have guys that when they have single coverage in the open floor, that can be an advantage for us. And then we have other guys, when they get double teamed, still can make the defense pay. We think if we can continue to help those guys thrive, that's going to be a good sign for our offense, because then we'll start to get some wide open shots on the backside, especially if they make the right decision.
Thank you, Coach.
Okay, thanks.